All right, 1 minute to go. 45 seconds. Hold on, Lee. Okay. Oh. All right. 10 seconds. Counting down. Okay, here we go.
It's time to tune into the Kate Daly Show, America's newest addiction. The show starts now.
This is how close we all are to understanding that our government is criminal. That's it. We're waking up. This world's waking up.
It's only Tylenol when given in context to a reaction, pain and fever after a vaccine. If Tylenol is given for an ankle sprain in a child, it's never been associated with autism. So it's really, I think, pointing the smoking gun looks like the vaccines.
Have caught the assassin of Mr. Charlie Kirk. Is that right?
We have a suspect, yes, sir.
And you did that within 48 hours, did you not?
33 hours.
33 hours. Congratulations. Did Mr. Kirk's assassin act alone?
As I've said since the beginning, Senator, it is very much an ongoing investigation, and I can't speak to the state charges. That's for the state to address on their own, but we are providing them with the same investigatory findings reporting the department. And as I noted to Senator, I believe it was Cornyn or Hawley, that there are a number of individuals that are currently being investigated and interrogated, and a number yet to be investigated and interrogated specific to that chat room. So we are very much in our ongoing posture of investigation.
So others could have been involved?
Yes, sir.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital. Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that? Sorry, 10-9? Can you just add a step to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? And 287, I'll clear the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got on the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to signature and they're bringing a car over here.
We are starting. Welcome, Kate Daly Show at your service today. So much to discuss. Wow, we never even got to the admission of 200, and I think it was 74 or 76 agents, 200 and almost 300 agents at J6. We never talked about that. Tylenol, we haven't even gotten to that one. And boy, we have a lot to discuss. So Dr. Lee Merritt is on tap for today, and excited to have her. She'll be with us briefly, and then I'll take calls. And let me just tell you, there is a ton to talk about with her. And I want to get her take on Charlie, on the LDS shooting attack. My gosh, there's so much incoming right now. So Dr. Lee Merritt, how are you? So glad to have you.
Great.
Oh, good.
And we didn't mention Tylenol, but I would like to say something.
Yeah,
about
please.
that since I'm here.
That was Peter McCullough on the tape roll in, but go ahead.
Well, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
and so here's, honestly, he kind of minimizes it. I mean, not for pregnancy, but kind of minimizes it for, we give it for sprains all the time. Well, I don't, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I haven't given out Tylenol to anybody since about 1998. I can't remember the exact date the paper came out, but let me tell you, there was a paper that was looking at, and this was in the Bone and Joint Surgery, I think the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery. This was a paper looking at the effect of long-acting anti-inflammatories like Celebrex. In those days, Bextra was still around. To see if they decreased your risk of dementia, because one of the theories of dementia, or the known factors in dementia, is inflammation of the brain.
Right.
So they looked at people over a 5 year that they took these anti-inflammatories, and they did the short-acting ones and the long-acting ones. And the control was a non-anti-inflammatory pain reliever, i.e. Tylenol. So what happened was the paper reported out that if you took a short-acting anti-inflammatory, it didn't do anything. If you took a long-acting anti-inflammatory, it did decrease, and I can't remember the percentage. It's somewhere around 20%, I think, your risk of getting dementia in 5 years. However, Tylenol, that was supposed to be zero, right, to the control, it actually increased your risk of dementia by 20%. It was a relative risk of 0.2. So it was like 20% higher in those taking Tylenol. Now, there's the other point to be made here is I think Tylenol has, I can't prove this with literature, but it's probably out there, that Tylenol has some kind of cumulative effect on your liver. It's really toxic, and it's known to be associated with increased, I think it's a kind of renal cancer. There's several different things but the dementia was new when I looked at that. So I quit taking it, and I quit giving it to my patients, but I found out that it's hard to get away from. People don't realize when it says APAP, that's Tylenol.
Right.
And there are different names for it, not just acetaminophen. There are also different names for it. So paracetamol, which is in, I think, Norco, or another one that the dentists love, it's even more toxic. And so doctors have been pushed to believe that by giving people Tylenol, they avoid the stomach risk of anti-inflammatories. And quite frankly, I'll take the stomach risk of anti-inflammatories, which is minimal with Celebrex. That's minimized with Celebrex,
Right.
over the Tylenol thing. So when they're coming out now and saying it might have an autism dimension, it really could. And especially if it's being given for fever lowering also, because any medicine, for some reason, our medical profession, Larry Plevsky just did a thing with the Children's Health Defense on how to treat sick kids, basically.
Right.
And in the old days, what did we do? We didn't give all these medications. We sponged kids down if they had a fever and they were too miserable. But having a fever is not maladaptive. Having a fever is how you get rid of toxic things from your cells.
Right.
So the idea that we have is somehow developed in ER practice, that a kid with 102 temperature comes into the ER, woof, give them Tylenol, give them Motrin, get that temperature down. No,
Right.
that they had studies before the age of computers. We knew about these, but they've been lost since then. And the age of before that, they showed that people that took any kind of temperature lowering drug for like it was polio and TB were the two they really looked at. It increased the active disease time, and it increased the morbidity, meaning paralysis or death in polio, and it increased those things in TB also. So you want the fever, and quit giving kids all these medicine. And this horrible idea, these women, to get back at Trump, are taking handfuls of Tylenol with their unborn child. That is in the pediatric literature, that according to Larry Plevsky said, that is in the pediatric literature, that there's neurodevelopment delay associated with taking Tylenol when the child is in utero.
Right.
What the heck? That's really cutting off your nose to spite your face.
There's always a section of society that is really that dumb, but hopefully
they're being manipulated.
Well,
and I got to say, in all fairness, we are in an information war. And everything we thought about talking about is in part of that information war. But
you're right.
It's really evil when they get women to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's does it lower glutathione?
Yes, it also does that. Okay. That may be the mechanism, the how it does it. But the point is, it has multiple different side effects, and so you don't want it. And I don't think it's a good drug. But it's almost impossible when you go to the dentist, for example. I had to have some implants. I was miserable when they took a tooth out one night, and for 2 nights, because they wouldn't give me something without Tylenol. Finally, I took something that had Tylenol in it because. But it's really, codeine isn't bad. Come on, dentists out there.
Yeah.
Just codeine. You're not going to addict somebody with straight codeine, 30 milligram tablets with nothing added. You're not going to damage their liver. Just let them take it for a few days.
And I think it's a big distraction to the entire vax program, being the culprit.
Well, yeah, it's part of that. It's all, it's so evil. I mean, I found evidence that they knew that parasites were causing cancer in 1900. So this is a bioweapons war that we're in addition to an information war.
Jeez.
They're using medicine to kill off a certain percentage of the population. Right. I'm not cutting corners here by saying this anymore. I mean, people can think I'm crazy, but you can read I have the literature on my I'm going to put out a Rumble video talking about the bioweapons aspect of this, but it's out there.
Let's we'll shift for just a moment because I'm going to go back to that later on in the show. But what I want you to kind of talk about the Charlie Kirk situation. What were your thoughts? I know I didn't have you on for that, so I wanted to.
Oh,
get your
okay, I
thoughts.
know.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. Well, again, all I'm going to say is it's never what they're telling you. You know, assassinations happen all the time.
Right.
But are they really always random? And I can't remember what SCAD stands for, but there's a term. It's called SCAD. It basically means it's an operation against democracy. I think it's societal something against democracy, but it's basically governments running these programs by killing people. It's the government doing it, and they use it to push an agenda one way or another.
Right.
Now, the benefit and the downside, the problem we have today is we're seeing everything we see is through a lens. I wasn't there. Were you there? Maybe you could have been there, I guess, but
No.
I wasn't there in person.
I had friends there.
Right. And when I was there at some place in person, like January 6th, it wasn't at all what the news was showing.
Yeah.
You know, it was not, it was like so dystopian. I remember getting back to the hotel and thinking, what are they showing these pictures of? It was completely, the whole afternoon we're outside the Capitol was completely peaceful.
Right.
And sunny day and people coming up to me and we were taking selfies and talking and I had my AF-LDS coat on. I mean, everybody was nice.
Yeah.
And in fact, after that whole thing that they claim was an attack on the Capitol by the Trump supporters, I saw people, and we didn't know that had happened at that time, but I looked up at that balcony at that level, and here are cops up there, the Capitol Police in their yellow guard uniforms, and they're just talking to the people around them, all the people, the protesters. So what's going on here?
Yep.
And again, I say this because we're now seeing this so-called assassination of Charlie Kirk. You have no provenance of any of these videos that are showing up. You don't know who sent them in. And I love the one that just came out that says, this puts the whole thing to rest. You know, the shot came from the back and blah, 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 blah. And notice whom he cites. He always says, yes, my friend was a Marine. Or the other one is, oh, yes, my friend was a Navy SEAL.
Right.
It's never, I have a friend in the Air Force that tells me that this is right. Or I have a friend in the Army. I'm sorry, those guys just don't have the same PR. But it's very funny, I think, that they always cite that it's got to be a Marine or a Naval SEAL to have any kind of credibility.
Right.
But just think about it. That guy didn't tell us where the film came from or the name or his name. So you wouldn't buy art with that kind of provenance.
Right.
And we know there's AI out there. There's holograms. There's just plain faking the film later. We also know from 9/11, remember what we saw there. We all saw planes. We all thought planes hit the towers. Now we're finding all this film by people, besides the fact that it doesn't fit the physics of what happened. We have all this film out there that shows people that were on site saying, no, I didn't see any planes. There was just like explosions and then the building started coming down.
Yeah.
So we don't know. And I'm just going to say that. But what I will say is there's some funny moments in a way. And and if he's dead, my heart goes out to the family. I don't mean to minimize what's going on. I'm just saying we're in a rabbit hole of confusion. We don't know what's going on. But what I can tell you for sure is if you're a real sniper that could take that shot from 400 or 500 yards or whatever that was to the top of that building, you wouldn't dress yourself in black and then run around on the top of a white building to get away. Okay. You see, that is just the classic kind of distraction that people buy into. There's a book on assassinations and I can't find it. I should check. It's in my library here somewhere in my basement. But it's a retired Army colonel, and he researched assassinations. He says it's always three people. You got the getaway car, you got the perpetrator, and then you've got the patsy.
Right.
And he said, you're never going to be catching the perpetrators are long gone, and they're never the guys running. He said they're always the guy standing nonchalantly on the street corner and just casually getting into the car.
Yeah. And remember the guy that shows up in every false flag. Remember, he was the distraction because everybody thought they got the shooter, right? The older guy. That was just,
it was all
dismissed.
staged. Now the only question is, there's really only two questions. We know it was staged. They're all staged. Assassinations are staged. But the question is he dead or alive? Or is he, I hope for his sake and the family's sake that they're all in witness protection program and we're seeing actors playing roles. I hope that's true, just because I like Charlie Kirk and I don't want to see him murdered. But the real question is cui bono, who benefits from this? Who's using it? And I gotta say, in this age of AI, where you don't have to, like the perpetrator for the guy that shot the United Healthcare CEO, isn't it interesting that we never really hear about him or see pictures of him in court, hear about him going to court? Now, maybe he's out, maybe somebody can correct me about this, but to me, he seems like the man that never shows in reality. And now we're hearing that he's being beaten up in jail. It's like preparatory to him dying in jail, so we'll never see him. I think there are some AI perpetrators that are showing up in these plays.
Could be.
Hey,
I'm open to anything just because I know how much they lie. So
right.
Yeah.
Everything's a lie. So don't jump on anything without really, really verifiable proof. Yeah. And as my friend Scott Kesterson said, who got an Emmy for film, he said he's told me he had his mother look at him and say, "Now, are you seeing me right now?" She said, "Well, of course." And then he has her look through a digital camera and said, "Are you seeing me right now?" And she said, "Well, yeah, of course." "No, you're not. You're seeing a digitally created image of me. That there's an area, there's a lot of ability to alter that even before it gets to your eye."
Oh, wow.
So that's another level of this.
Right. Jeez. Wow. So what do you say when people say to you, what's with the uptick? Why are they doing all of this? What's going on? What's at the heart of this? What do they really want to get out of it?
Well, I think we're in a big war, and people don't realize we're in a long-term war for power in this world. And we can argue who the players are, and it's a little hard to sort out by name, but there's some, and the war in Ukraine is probably at the center of this, the special operation. So, because provably there's one group of people here that seem to engage in pedophilia, blood drinking. I mean, maybe we're dealing with vampires. That blood drinking, pedophilia, and body parts trafficking and human trafficking as their major source of income. And I think that cabal is being taken down. I think they are stressed now for money. And they're not happy, and I think bad things are happening because they're, it's like a caged tiger a cornered tiger that thinks he can get away. He's going to fight. I think we're seeing that. I can't deal, the specifics are kind of elusive, but there's certain aspects of this that, things that shouldn't really remember when Pope Francis, the Vatican made a call. It was after Trump had gone over there, and then the Vatican makes a call for all Catholics to send in money and jewels and whatever they could to the Vatican Bank, because otherwise Pope Francis won't be able to run his missions.
Yes.
What? This is the gold capital of the world probably, and he can't run his missions. But they're taking. I think they're taking these things down. Yeah. I think there is a military alliance in the world. That you can call me crazy, but there's something going on, because now we're hearing George Soros can't fund things unless that's disinformation by the bad guys. You just don't know.
Yeah, it's going to get more confusing too. I think it's going to get way more confusing.
I will tell you my advice, and this is what I do. Act locally. You can watch this show and think about what's going on and hope that the good guys are winning. But in the meantime, take action locally. And that to me means helping to stand the republic up in your county. Take the county leadership back, because county by county, we have to take our country back. And the other thing is, understand that there is a real world out there. When I go out to my garden and I deal with bees and chickens and live things and growing food and even practicing real medicine by touching patients and things, that's the real world. What they're convincing you is real is actually just this weird computer kind of generated now alternative reality that's just made up of lies and chaos and the modern technology things. It's not normal for us to be sitting at a computer to get our information.
Right.
That's the point. I think that people are going to, all you'll do is get an ulcer trying to sort this out, watching even the off-stream news. I don't, I kind of watch it at a distance psychologically now. I watch it, but I think I'm not going to get caught up in all this, because it's really not, you can't verify anything. One of my favorite examples of this was this when the Ukrainians early on in the special operation, what the Russians call the special operation, they weren't doing so well, and they had, needless to say, and they had to have some kind of win, and they claimed they hit this Moscow building with a drone, and it took down the front of the building. The only problem with that is, and I've not seen a retraction, but maybe there is one out there on some back page, that building is in Davenport, Iowa. It was actually a building that the cement was not done right or something, and there's lawsuits over it. So a friend of mine from Iowa, I was over in Eastern Iowa speaking, and they said, "Hey, you know where that drone hit that building in Moscow? You know where that building really is?" And he told me, and I looked at the picture again, and I realized I put side to side the Iowa the Iowa story and the Moscow story. And you can see the Mississippi River going behind the buildings identically. So that's the kind of problem we get into. And it's just not worth getting an ulcer over all that. I think you have to realize that there's a real world. We need to be talking to human beings one-on-one. We need to be interacting with our neighbors and doing real things, not learning to build things. You know, how many of our young people can actually, we talk about a post-apocalyptic world, they're hosed. They can't hammer a nail. They don't know how to do any plumbing. They don't know how to do any electrical work. They don't know how to grow a garden. They haven't learned the skills that I grew up. No, I'm the first generation since the Revolutionary War in my family that didn't grow up on a farm, but I learned those skills at a basic level. I've been practicing them since, but yeah, I think that's where we have to be.
So when people ask you, you know, because I get this question a lot, and I actually think Charlie's probably dead in this. I don't always say that, but I think in this one. But if he's not, that at the end of the day, he's off the stage. So I don't know if it even matters debating that, because we won't know, number one, and number two, he's off the stage. Why him? Why do you think he was targeted?
Well, you know, I think he either decided to swap positions on Israel or not. I'm not sure. It has something to do with Israel, I think. Either they took him out or we put him in some kind of protected custody and pretended to take him out to make that narrative the case.
Right.
Not sure. That's what I think is the most probable.
Right. All right. And yeah, I don't know that we'll ever know, but I appreciate you saying that. Somebody just asked you from the audience, by the way, the phone number is 435-680-2503. You can text or call, but what is Dr. Merritt's opinion on med beds?
Well, I don't know, and I won't know until we see them and we know something. You know, this is like, we should have remembered. Now, remember how we got into the COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
A lot of people ran out and got it without knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
Doctors gave it with a blank instruction sheet in the box. If we should learn anything from that, we should learn that you don't rush out and take new anything without some research. So I don't have the data, so I can't tell you. Not all wavelength is good wavelength. I think I know how this works, and if it works the way I've been told, it's probably a great deal. That it actually reverts your DNA essentially back to the way it was when you were younger. That would be great, and that's how it heals. But I don't know, so I think I hope it's real. And
okay.
And in the meantime, though, I have to say, I think we're close to really understanding what's been taking us down in the world of parasites and poisons and EMF. I don't think, you know, the one thing, it's not kind of like the one thing I can say about not knowing who the assassin of Charlie Kirk is. I can tell you without equivocation that there is no virus floating between people. And in fact, if the biggest news, which I think is great, because I've been saying it, but I'm just a little dumb orthopedic surgeon in my basement podcasting. Okay. Michael Yeadon, on the other hand, is a veterinarian, PhD, and his PhD was in pulmonary diseases in animals, I guess, and pharmacology for pulmonary diseases. He was a vice president of Pfizer and their chief science officer in England at one time. Anyway, I had emailed him we were emailing back and forth early on, but then he kind of disappeared. Now he's come out and said there's absolutely no evidence of airborne transmission of disease. So I'm here to say I absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
That is the biggest anti-human agenda lie that caused this whole nonsense. Think how dystopian it is to think about being in in a world where the people are masked up. They're still wearing masks in
I know.
places,
Drives me nuts.
and when there's nothing there, it's not just that it doesn't even by, our argument was
Right.
initially that, hey, if even by their narrative of the
Mm-hmm.
virus theory, these don't work.
Right.
We know that in the operating room, that's not why you wear a mask. It doesn't hold anything, and you're supposed to not turn your head, because when you cough, you got to look straight at the operating table, because if you turn your head, it blows out the side of the mask. Well,
Right.
that doesn't contain viruses. Come on, people. But it's even better than that. There is no evidence of airborne disease, and I think I thought that was true too, but I couldn't say it with the officialdom that he can, and I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because that is how we built the whole lie around the modern era. That's what 1918, in my opinion, was phase one of COVID.
Yeah.
It was the trial run.
The
It was
building.
how they did that. And if you look at not just the numbers and how they did the news and how they did everything is kind of parallel.
Yep.
Even the same names, Gates and Gates,
Yeah,
Rockefeller.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the same. Johns Hopkins and Johns Hopkins. It's
Yeah.
the same people.
So true, so true. And I know you have to leave soon, and I wanted to make sure, is there anything new that you've been discussing, talking about, that you feel like the audience needs to know? Because I haven't actually met with you in several months at least. So
Yeah, well, like I say, I think I'm really nailing down the bioweaponization of parasites, and I would just say that again, as I said, my whole family back to the Revolutionary War grew up on farms. My dad had a pet pig that ran inside and out of the house. I mean, these were dirt poor farmers, all those generations, and they weren't going down with these diseases. Another big lie is that our life expectancy is shorter than our ancestors. That's not true. The problem is how we calculate life expectancy. And so they had higher perinatal mortality, okay, and maternal natal mortality. But we've kind of made that better. But if you make it to 50, your chance of living to 80 in our lifetime is much less than it was back in the 1800s, when they weren't being so poisoned.
Right.
And they lived a natural existence. And you can look at family histories and figure that out, quite frankly. But
yeah.
the problem here is that they've weaponized the parasites that are responsible for these neurologic diseases like MS and psychosocial things like schizophrenia. There's all sorts of stuff we're finding out, and cancer. Didn't bother them because they weren't toxifying their liver. They didn't have all these other toxins in them, and they weren't taking vaccines. So I found, there's just one thing I'll quote. There was an article in an old parasitology journal from 1919. I found, these are two Japanese researchers, and they found that animals that forage, that eat a wide variety of diet, they tend to have parasites in their stomach, but they don't hurt them if the animal is healthy, mammals.
Okay.
But then they took this into the lab, and they worked with rabbits that had been raised for the purpose, so they didn't have any parasites. They gave them the parasites, and again, if the animal was healthy, nothing happened. But if they gave them the parasites and then they injected them with a rabies vaccine, then the parasites blossomed out, gave them stomach cancer, and killed the animal before its life expectancy.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
and a similar
Caller,
thing
hold
done
on.
with sugar.
Okay.
So if you don't like the guy, he got a Nobel Prize for this, but now they disavow him. But he said that he dosed with a different parasite. He dosed rats, and some groups of rats, they would all get cancer. Other groups of rats, none of them would get cancer in the stomach. And he asked the rat catchers, "What's the difference?" And the guy said, "Oh, doc, those ones that you got cancer, those were caught in a sugar factory." So before 1930, we knew that parasites were thought by the intellectual crowd to be the reason for cancer. But it only occurred in animals that had either a high sugar intake or were given vaccines. Now let's just think about that.
Yeah, interesting.
What have we done this whole 21st and 20th century?
Sugar and vaccines.
That's right. At
Oh my
first, we came
gosh.
after the military
caller.
in 1918, and then we expanded it to everybody.
Right.
So it's against our military. It's against our. We vaccinated. Look at when COVID came out. Who were the targets? All of the people that supported the security infrastructure of America.
Right.
From your trauma surgeons to your border patrol to
First
your military.
responders, military,
Yeah.
everybody. Oh,
Yeah.
let's take a quick call for you. Go ahead, caller.
Kate, thanks for taking my call. I have to say this just so Lee understands. My name is Tom in Idaho. And I know a lot of times when we end up listening to callers with this much experience and all of that, it seems as though the little person seems a bit disconnected from somebody that they've seemed to elevate. And what I wanted to do is take a moment to be able to bring that home a little bit and to be able to let people know that are listening. Not only is this woman is extremely impressive listening to her on the radio, she actually helped triage me on the phone when I was right in the middle of having a stroke.
Whoa.
And it's because of her why I'm still alive today.
Wow.
And I just wanted to let Lee know thank you. And I wanted the callers to be able to know that these people, they have a personal, they're real, and what they're saying is true. And and I just needed to bring it home. Dr. Merritt, thank you so much. I'm 98%, and I want everybody to know that you're as solid as everything you say. And I just wanted people to know. So thank you so much.
You betcha. Thank you. Really appreciate the call.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Really appreciate that. Also, somebody wanted to know on text, by the way, 435-680-2503, about high blood pressure, the myth about high blood pressure designed to sell drugs.
Oh, absolutely. I just gave, maybe they were in Minnesota and heard me.
Maybe.
I gave this talk at Twyla Brace's fundraiser for her Health Freedom Association. Anyway, what the story is, and I learned this, I didn't figure this out because I'm in orthopedics. I wasn't following along with all this thinking, and I didn't have high blood pressure, so I never really looked at it after I left my internship. But in my internship in 1980, I told people, or I went to a meeting and they told us at the meeting, international blood pressure meeting, and 3 days of debate of all this stuff being debated and talked about. And then at the end, they summarized it in a panel. They said, we don't know exactly when to treat blood pressure. We don't know exactly the best way to treat blood pressure, but we're all in agreement here that low salt diet doesn't matter. Well, about a year ago, I was at the Weston A. Price Foundation, and Dr. Brownstein was speaking, a couple speakers ahead of me. So I thought I'd just listen to what he had to say. And he's been famous. I knew him for the iodine, taking more iodine, which I've always done. But when he explained how the problem is not high salt, it's low salt. If you consume less than the equivalent of 2 teaspoons of salt a day, you are constricting your blood volume. Your blood volume is slowly shrinking. And what happens when your blood volume shrinks? Well, you lose your blood pressure, you get low blood pressure. Then your body has to respond because it thinks you're dying. So the blood pressure first your body steals the salt from the inside the cells into your blood volume, into your circulating blood volume. But it can only do that so much. But it'll do that, and then women will get cankles as they get older, and people will get these swollen ankles, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And but it's still not solved the problem because you're still being told to eat a low salt diet. So then the big thing happens is that your body realizes, well, this is the end game. We have to do something. And it turns on the backup blood pressure system called the renin-angiotensin system. Angio meaning vessel, blood vessel, tensin meaning tension. So this is a squeezing the blood vessel moment. And it's not very precise, and it can overshoot. And thereby we get high blood pressure. So I'm sitting in the back of this room, and I'm remembering too about my friends saying how the new thing is everybody's supposed to drink 8 glasses of water, and we were going to do a health challenge or something. And I said, I'm not doing that. I don't think that's right. Just it's unless you're losing that much, you know. And I started looking it up, and then when he gave this talk, I thought, oh my gosh, this is basic physiology. I mean, what he explained was like physiology 101. You cannot tell me that the guys at Pfizer and in other pharmaceutical companies don't know. This is how blood pressure is being created by their ideas of low salt diet to sell you a drug, I think. And but it's worse. Now they're giving you all this free water. They're not telling you to drink salt water. They're telling you to give you free water. And so what happens is you're going to dilute your salt even more and flush more out of the kidneys. So this is a really evil plan, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it can be overcome. Yeah. I don't have any problem now. My blood pressure was never treatable high yet, but it was creeping up, and mostly I was having swelling in my ankles. And so that's kind of your first step. And I decided I'm going to try this. I love Baja Gold, but that's not the only thing. I mean, Celtic salt that Brownstein uses, but you get 2 teaspoons, and I just put it in hot water at night. Now I add a 1/4 teaspoon of borax, because I'm going to tell you, we think borax breaks up nanoparticulate matter, the nanoparticles that we're worried about. But it also cuts the saltiness of the salt, and you can have a good quality mixed mineral salt with a little bit of borax. It's not so salty, and I just make a hot tea out of it at night and drink it. It's
Interesting.
completely solved my problem. I mean, my
Okay.
blood pressure is back down where it normally was, and my ankles are not swelling.
Well, I love it.
So
I love
I
it.
think he's right, and it's so obvious. I mean, any doctor out there listening, if you
Yeah.
think back, if you're old enough to have actually been taught a good physiology of the human body, I was always taught. I was in Rochester, New York, and they were famous for their physiology department. They said, if it doesn't fit with the physiology that new treatment is not right. And so, but I never thought of, I never, again, I didn't compare it. I didn't realize
Right.
what was going on. And but when they showed it, it was so basic that it can't be by accident, which is my new, I will tell you, my new, Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Uh-huh.
Well, there's no art of biowar. So I'm making Merritt's laws of biowarfare. And the first one is, if known science is systematically ignored, that's not by accident. If consistently over time, if they're completely ignoring
Right.
what is out there and hiding, it's even worse. But they're ignoring it, then that's not by accident. That's a program being run against you. Okay, and
Interesting. Okay.
that is the nature of this information / biowarfare we're in.
Wow. All right. Themedicalrebel.com. Themedicalrebel.com. You can find Dr. Lee Merritt and follow her there. And thanks so much. I know you have to cut it short because you've got some things going on there. But I so appreciated you coming on today. It was awesome.
No, thanks. Always
You bet.
fun. Thank you
bet.
so
Thank
much.
you. All right.
Bye.
Appreciate you, Dr. Lee Merritt. And okay, I really always appreciate her. She always has a fresh kind of take on things, which I love. So, all right, we're going to pivot to a couple of things because there's just a couple of things that need to be said. So Candace Owens is kind of going after Phil, going after people that I actually know. And I'm telling you, she Tiffany Barker in Utah, and I don't know why she's going after him. It's kind of weird. She just doesn't know them, I guess. She's not going after Cox, our illegitimate governor, but she's going after Phil Lyman, which is very weird. Phil's a good guy, and so I don't know why she's doing this, but she just doesn't know. She just doesn't know. Maybe she's grasping a little bit. I don't know. So there's that. And I just wanted to mention that because there's people in Utah that are pretty angry at her going, no, wait a second. I follow you. I like what you're saying as far as, making sure that, well, she came out, Candace, and said, I'm the only one even asking for an investigation into this thing. The only one that actually knows Charlie that is asking, no one else is. They're all clammed up, and which is true. But then she ventured into these certain people in Utah, and I'm like, yeah, that's not your problem. Phil isn't her problem. Is not the problem in this Charlie Kirk murder. So there's that. The other thing was, like I said before, people are texting me and saying, well, I think he's alive. Either way, he's off the stage. So the question to ask is, why is he off the stage? Which I asked Dr. Merritt too. Why is he off the stage? That's a big deal. So there's that too. All right. So I think not Dr. Merritt, but I think with just the populace at large, I guess it wouldn't surprise me to find out that he was alive. That actually would not surprise me. I think that there are some things that are very faked when it comes to death, when it comes to what the deep state does, and what they get behind. And I've mentioned those on the air, but I don't think this one is. I actually think he could be gone. So. A lot of people saying, we don't really trust her. And that's, it is what it is. I question everybody. I question everybody. So there's that. The other thing I wanted to mention was the new Korean study that came out, the Korean study that talked about the COVID cancer. The COVID shots causing cancer. So the news actually addressed it as highly contentious study, but it was done by Korean researchers. And they found the proof of the jabs raised the risk of 6 types of cancer, including lung, breast, and prostate cancer. And the risk appeared the greatest for over 65. So this was a research scientific publisher that they took this information from and talked about it leading to turbo cancers. So of course the article is going to say that all along the way, oh, we just don't know about this research group or whatever. The research, the fresh study was published in the journal Biomarker Research, owned by Springer Nature, which produces some of the world's most prestigious scientific journals. It was authored by Korean medics in orthopedic surgery and critical care and analyzed the health records of more than 8.4 million adults between 2021 and 2023. And participants were categorized into two groups, whether they had taken a vaccine, COVID vaccine, including a booster. So the cancer diagnosis rates were then compared against the vaccination status to determine the risk of certain cancers a year after taking the jab. And then they hypothesized that after a year, those that had taken at least one COVID jab had a 35% increased risk of being diagnosed with thyroid cancer and a 34% risk of gastric cancer. It's crazy, right? And the risk rose 53 to 68%. So it went from 35% to 53 and 68% for lung and prostate cancers, respectively. And then breast and colorectal cancers had an increased rate of 20 to 28%, respectively. So they said the cDNA vaccines were associated with the increased risks of thyroid, gastric, colorectal, lung, and prostate cancers. So just letting you know about that. Okay. So there's that. Gosh. And I guess my tinfoil hat was on because, that's what I got accused of. You can't even believe the amount of people that told me off. Because I said on the show that was my hunch, that I thought that it would be causing cancer early on. And you just can't even believe how many people went after me. Okay. So these things are coming out now, which is pretty pathetic and sad. And I'm sad that it is. I am. I didn't want to be right, and you didn't want to be right. Just heartbreaking. Anyway, a lot of needless ill health. On the Tylenol front, which I found kind of interesting, it was, it was Harman Morris that came out with what we know today as Tylenol. Okay, in 1877, and they took it from coal tar. And what's kind of interesting about that is that he was the teacher at Johns Hopkins. Okay, and that was heavily funded, should we say, by Rockefellers. So that actually turned into, I think it was the what's the name of this McNeil? I think it was McNeil that actually put the name Tylenol out there and then packaged it, and it came out the same exact year that the vaccines like polio came out, and then we had the vaccine program. Kind of interesting there. But then Johnson & Johnson bought it 4 years later, I think 1969 or 1970, they bought it. And I'm just saying that I think it's more of a red herring in this, although it does lower glutathione, and we do know that it causes liver problems. And I don't think people were told that right off the bat. I think they always thought Tylenol was very safe, and then the hospitals give Tylenol, right? But it does lower glutathione. So just throwing that out there, that I thought that was kind of interesting. So, okay, so here's I just wanted to cover just a couple of these things. So, maybe you should say why Lyman is looking suspicious to Candace. Okay, well, he was with Charlie Kirk right before and took photos with Turning Point members here in Utah. So I don't know. If you want to call in, call in. I'll hear from you for sure. And then, of course, on Phil on Facebook with a rebuttal of what she's saying and also a lot of proof. So I think she needs to pull back and look at her source before going on with this about Phil Lyman. She does have interesting things to say, but not only the Israel part of Charlie starting to have his eyes opened, which looks like it's very true that he was starting to question them. But he was also starting to investigate the financial things going on. Turning Point, he was seeing some red flags there. So could have been an inside job. Could have been, for sure. So so there's a couple of different takes, I guess, on Candace and who she's going after right now in relation to the Charlie Kirk thing. And I did feel like I was a little bit hard on Charlie. You know, Charlie, he was not really questioning a whole lot, in my opinion, but he was really good at what he did on the college campus. But he was also young too, and it took me years to figure out what was really going on. So I can't be very hard on people in some respects because sometimes they just don't know. But he was starting to question kind of the Israel and connection and Israel, the CIA Israel thing, and which, like I said, I was told when I started radio that you can't talk about that. That's just not a place you can go. You'll get shut down real quick when it comes to that. Now, what I have noticed is the fact that I have sort of like less opportunities because I will mention the Israel CIA connection and that they're bosom buddies and that they participate together in many of the things that we see happening. So. And that Israel their government basically runs our government. And so, yeah, I have less opportunities because of that. I'm invited on less even alternative media shows because of that. What can I say? I mean, I knew that would be the case, but I wasn't going to hang back. But there you go. So there was that. All right. Let's see. This was kind of an interesting statement by Trump. I think this was today. So this was, I don't know, I just found it kind of interesting. It's going to jump into the middle, but it'll go again. Okay, listen to this. Here we go.
Piece of testing, and this one tested like through the roof. And they said, we'd like to name it the F-47. I said, all right, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know what that means, 47, I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, yeah, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46. I don't want to have their open borders, and people coming in from all over the world, including jails and mental institutes. I don't want that on my record, but I like having it. They're testing all these planes.
Wild, right? That was it was just like a weird statement. I was number 45, 46, and 47, but I don't want credit for being 46. That was just fun. It was just it was an interesting statement for sure. All right. Hi. They were going to name this thing after him, the F-47. All right. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hi.
Hi,
Kate.
Hi.
Yes. Thank you for taking the call.
Sure.
Just wanted to let you know about one thing I saw on YouTube last night.
Okay.
Regarding the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Okay.
I watched a video of a man named Chris Martinson. He has a show called Peak Prosperity. I believe he has an economics background. He is a hunter. He did about an hour-long show on research on this whole shooting. Very interesting. What he showed was that from where they say this Tyler Robinson person was, impossible. But what really struck with me, he showed that video. Do you know the video they're showing now with the so-called shooter jumping off the building?
Yeah.
He drops the bag,
Yes.
picks up the bag, and takes off.
Yes.
Okay. He enlarged that, showed it very carefully. If you noticed, there are people walking in the background, just passersby. Well, it's edited. This video is edited. These people are walking in the background. They approach a tree, and they showed one person. You never see them coming out the other side of the tree. It's edited. It's very interesting. The other thing, he followed the shadow of this person as he was running across the rooftop, supposedly after committing this shooting.
Right.
And his shadow suddenly disappears. It's edited. He shows how it's edited. And you would completely miss it. I completely missed that. Just something to look at.
Okay.
Very interesting program. Chris Martinson, Peak Prosperity. Also, thank you so much for Lee Merritt.
You got
She's
it.
wonderful.
You got it. Thank you
She's
so much.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Of course.
Really appreciate the
You're
call.
welcome.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So here's my question. What do you think, after all these people have done all these videos from all the different angles and kind of suspicious things happening, what do you think actually happened out of all the theories? This is what Alex Jones was asking me yesterday on the show. So it was kind of a strange conversation, but to tell you the truth, and I was supposed to be on longer, but anyway, and I was supposed to talk about the LDS shooting, but anyway, so why? I mean, so which one? I mean, which theory do you think is the one that people are gravitating toward and listening to, and it's making sense? I don't know. That's one for the books. I have no idea. I do also want to mention too that Dr. Merritt, while I'm waiting for your calls, by the way, 435-680-2503, I just wanted to mention that the Cardio Miracle, I am really loving this. I am loving this product, and I took it with me to South Carolina, and my husband was laughing because I took a big bag and we didn't have a whole lot of weight with the luggage, to spare, but I took a bag of it, and I had some of my relatives taking it too, because through that whole week, I didn't want to be without it. And I knew it would give me the energy, and it gives you that mineral impact. And isn't that what we need right now, especially going into this weird flu season? So I just wanted to say that I love it, Kate. So go to cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Try this product. And my husband and I were talking about it last night. Hold on, caller. My husband and I were talking about it last night. And he's like, I take it every day. He's like, I love this. But the whole key was taking it twice a day. That's what made a difference. Because I tried it years ago, only taking it once. I don't think I was taking enough. And now I'm like, wow, I'm feeling great. And usually traveling that much and being that stressed out, I normally would not, right? So get your immune system up. I'm loving this very mineral packed product that's helping so many people, and people rave about it. They love this thing. cardiomiracle.com/Kate, but just want to let you know. All right, caller, go right ahead.
Well, hi, Kate.
Hi
How are
there.
you?
I'm good. How are you? Go right ahead. I want to hear.
Hey, so the Charlie Kirk thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people have seen or have followed a gentleman. His handle eludes me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Trump attempted assassination in Pennsylvania happened, he his whole line of work is this forensic bullet expert.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to pinpoint the shooter that was on the water tower.
Mm-hmm.
He was also able to pinpoint, because of the trajectory and the audio that was captured, the sniper that was actually in a tree to Trump's right.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to figure out that there was actually a shooter underneath Crooks, the patsy, that was within that building.
Oh, wow.
So there were actually 3 snipers, because he put the audio together with the people who got hit within the bleachers, and he created this entire 3D video game almost. And he touts the fact, he's like, look, I have ADHD, and this is my superpower. This is why I'm so good at what I do. I mean, this is his profession.
Right. Wow.
So initially, after Kirk was shot, he was able to use the audio that from all these different places that were posted online, and kind of overlap them so that he could get a good feel for anything that had been edited. And he ended up looking at the gunshot audio. Said there are 2 shots within that big bang that you hear. When I first saw the unedited stuff online, I shot a 30-06. My grandfather's, in fact. It was a very old gun. It cannot be broken down easily, and it's very, very big, right?
Right.
But as soon as I heard that crack, I knew that it was a rifle. And he said that when he evaluated the audio, from, several of these, that there are two shots and they are 0.07 seconds apart from each other. He said it's not an echo because an echo would deteriorate, right? It wouldn't have the same amplitude the second time around. So he said you have, and if you look at all the different people that have captured that bullet coming in from his right side, there was also pictures, images of Kirk having an exit wound and an entry wound. The entry wound was behind his ear, right? So whoever was doing this knew exactly where the kill shot needed to be in order to completely to sever his spinal column so that he was gone immediately, right?
Right.
Which lined up with his friend and what he said in the car, that he was not there, right? That he was immediately gone. There was no saving Mr. Kirk, which is extremely heartbreaking. But they also have video from behind Kirk on the right side with a gentleman that's in black, because the bullet is passing and the video catches that bullet in the sun against the black. And if you go and you pan further up to the right, there is a dark area and there is a flash that happens in that space that is a split second before the bullet passes in front of the gentleman with the black t-shirt and then ends up hitting Kirk on the right side. So we all are very aware that he was not shot in the front, that this large bullet did not lodge in his spine or underneath his skin, right? I feel like as I've taken all of this information in, that just like Crooks on the roof in Pennsylvania, this kid was meant to be killed.
Yeah.
And I feel like they told him, you stay up there and disassemble the rifle before you come down. And he didn't do it. He got scared and he ran. And I feel like because he ran, they were not able to off him. And so now they've had to create this narrative to pin him to this and make him the sole shooter.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting. Okay.
So I know a lot of people, I was just talking to a friend today, I'm telling her about this because she brought up, what I thought about this Tyler character. And of course she's like, I haven't heard any of this. I'm like, it's so sad because it's out there everywhere. And again, I feel that there's a lot of fakery happening where people are, this guy had this little tiny mini gun under his shirt or this hand signal stuff and maybe, but I feel like that's all trying to divert people away from, where to actually look and to narrow in on, okay, where did follow the bullet?
Right.
Follow
And
the path of the bullet.
Yeah. And I don't think it was a magic bullet. I don't think that his body stopped it. When that came out, I thought, okay.
And I don't think that his microphone exploded. A lot of people are like, oh, his microphone exploded. No, it was clipped to his shirt. But the fact that he has, if you, and again, this is kind of a lot of gory detail, but if you zoom in far enough on that entry wound behind his ear, there is blood that comes out there.
Okay.
So I don't believe that it originated in the microphone either.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad that you brought forth this. That's great. Thank you for that. Jeez, I love it. Thank you. Some great detail. Appreciate it. Wow. Okay. Let's take another one. Hi, caller. Go right ahead.
Hey, Kate.
Hi
How
there.
are you?
Good. How are you? Go right ahead.
Good. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. So I want to investigate this from like a different angle. No pun intended.
Okay.
So Charlie Kirk's dad, Robert Kirk, designed Trump Tower. I'm not sure if you've heard that.
I have. Yeah.
Erica, his wife, was already working for Trump as a young lady and wins his Miss Teen pageant. And so these two just happen to be together. What a joke, folks. I mean, look at the big picture. This is done on purpose. This whole thing is a sham. It's CGI. He was, in my opinion, either wearing a squib or the whole thing was CGI. The blood doesn't even stain his shirt or remain on there. Everybody knows about the ring changing fingers. I mean, there's just so many things And going over all this detail with my friend knows this camera angle shows that, all that stuff is just muddying the water to confuse people. So to give us something to talk about versus the big picture. And I mean, if you even look at it from the point of like turning point, the name of this thing, we're at a turning point right now in this country, thanks to, in large part, to things like this propaganda. And that's all it is. And if you look at what's happening in your life, the people that you talk to, the emotional reaction, that is why it's done, because of this divide and conquer tactic, which is absolutely happening.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'm not opposed to what you're saying because there is a lot on that. I mean, the fact that she went to Turning Point for a job and that's how they met. And then, of course, the Trump Tower thing with the father. And then, of course, her mother worked for the DOD and that she was introduced to pretty high up officials early on in her pre-pageant days. And that, of course, yes, Trump owned the pageants at that time. And so there is a lot. There's a lot there. And I mean, it's part of the conversation.
She was a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a multimillionaire too. She inherited like 23 million in her early 20s. It's a joke, folks.
Okay.
Do different research
Yeah.
than what you're doing, what they're putting in front of you.
No,
Please.
I can agree with that. Thank you so much. I love the call. Yeah, I mean, I understand where he's going because I've seen a lot of people commenting on this too, as far as they were made to meet, and now she's taking over Turning Point. So, in fact, there was an article today. Just happened. I was just looking at the horrid Drudge Report, which is so liberal. Anyway, it was taken over a long time ago, and of course they called her the MAGA. What do they call her? The Erica Kirk, the new messiah of MAGA Christianity. Not just Christianity, but MAGA Christianity. Now, you guys know that when I talked about moving us to the right and putting Trump in, and that we knew this several years ago, right? We knew that they were going to make this move. And I kept saying over and over again, they're going to make this move because they want to gear us towards war and digital currency, and they want us to be complacent. They also want to persecute Christianity. Okay. They also want to get us into a place where we're going to be responsible, right, for many, many things happening. So that, and I do feel like that whole scene in Butler was about getting people to say, well, it's a God thing. He's only here because of God. But I did feel the second I saw the whole Butler thing that something was very wrong with that. We haven't heard about Matthew Crook since, right, or his family. You haven't seen anything. And there was something so off about it. And I just remember thinking, they're martyring this. They're going to put this in people's minds as a miracle of God rather than the deep state doing it. And that, and I don't know whether he knew or didn't know. I don't know. But I do think that was a deep state thing. And I think it was to create some martyrdom, to be honest. And then, of course, it did. And then you had a lot of people that were just squarely on the conversation of it was an act of God. And so therefore, this is why he's going in. And it turned a lot of people to the right. And so it's interesting that this article today called Erica Kirk the new messiah of MAGA Christianity. That was so weird to me because I think it goes full circle to this point, is that Christianity, people that are Christian, they get to a point in the book of Revelation where they are heavily, heavily persecuted, right? And I think that this is the start of that. If you're asking me, it is the build up to build up the situation where we become this hated group, to tell you the truth. So that was an interesting one today. I was like, ooh, ouch. And this is hard to say because I know a lot of people felt in their hearts or thought that it was an act of God keeping him alive. But here's the problem with that story. I told you 2 years ago that they were putting him in, and I lost a lot of listeners over that because people were like, no, we'll vote him in, but we're not, that the deep state won't put him in because he's a renegade, because he's an outsider. And I'm like, ooh, you're not president of the United States. You're not president unless you get sanctioned. So that can't be true. Those two things are at odds with each other. Okay. So the fact that the deep state took a break, and I've said that many times, I won't belabor that, but they didn't take a break. Okay. During the Biden administration. All right. So King Dingaling, they did not take a break for that. So there's that. All right. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hey, Kate.
Hi there.
So, you're talking about the Christians becoming more the hated group. It's like, well, I'm a Christian and I'm a white male, so I'm already part of the hated group. So I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Two hated groups. Oh my
there you go.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, well, I have to laugh because we'll cry, right? And I know Alex was asking me about that. Alex Jones was asking me and thought that that was not an event done by the deep state yesterday. And I thought I was going to have more time on there, so but I didn't. I could have debated that a little bit. And the deal is that we're looking at, I think, so many things that are engineered. Yesterday, I put a post on Facebook. And the post was all about the fact that we have in history people coming out, especially after Vietnam, and saying, look, I was in the military and I was handpicked for these secret projects, secret programs, and that I have been drugged. I have been, I don't know some of the things I've done. I think I'm not aware, these types of things. And so yesterday I was saying, look, when you look at the facts of like the LDS shooting in Michigan, and you look at the facts, the dad came out today and said, so sorry to the families. We're dealing with all this too. And then there's been people speculating. I should say speculating because I don't know for sure. Tried to do some research on this. It's very hard to get, but that he was with the CIA. So that's kind of the father of the shooter. Okay. So like a military family. So it was very interesting. And this has nothing to do with the military. I have people in my family in the military and I'm surrounded by veterans. So it isn't about the military when I say this. This is more about out of the millions that serve, some people being handpicked for projects and programs. Now, when the CIA went into existence, and I said this a little bit yesterday, when they went into existence, before that, we really didn't have the lone shooter. It wasn't a thing. You didn't have somebody go up and random shooting somebody for no apparent reason. Okay, it just didn't happen. And then once the CIA was developed, and we know what their priority was because all you have to do is go look in history. It wasn't about keeping the commies away. What a story that was. It was about, because we're talking like 1947, 1948, 49, when it was firmly established and then given absolutely no laws and basically took over the country was our intelligence racket. This includes military intelligence. And so when that happened, all of a sudden we came up with the lone shooter, the lone gunman, the random one. And when I'm looking back at some of these ex-military ones, they're trying to blame it on mental health, right? Could be. I'm not saying it's not, but they're trying really hard to say, well, it was mental health because of PTSD. And I'm wondering if there were programs that they were a part of. I'm wondering if you can get assets to act when you don't think they're going to, when you want them to carry out things that they wouldn't maybe even do. Who knows? So then I want to take that a little step farther, because this is Kate talking. This isn't, I can't prove this. But it occurred to me, and I'll share this with you, this feeling that, and it's just a feeling that, how they always said sleeper cells? Sleeper cells, the Islam is coming to get us, which I do think that they don't like us. Okay. So they don't like the infidel, that they consider the infidel. So I'll move that aside for just a second because I'm aware of that. But that they kept saying for 20 some odd years that, we have these sleeper cells and they're going to come and they're going to get us in every city. What if the sleeper cells aren't exactly Islamic? What if those sleeper cells are some military members that they've handpicked that have become part of special projects, special operations that don't even, maybe aren't aware that they have been programmed to do things. B, that, maybe they are aware. Who knows? I don't know. But it seems to me that when people were coming out and trying to say this, it was totally poo-pooed. It was ridiculed by the media and the government. And whenever they are ridiculing something, I'm always looking at it twice, because they usually ridicule what is actual fact. And these guys had no reason to come up with a story that they had been part of, like, say, an MK Ultra program, but they were very certain that they had. And I have to at least register that, because I think it's very possible. So in the event of saying these Middle Eastern countries are coming to get us, what if it is this type of situation, right? Where they can get certain ex-military members to do these types of things. And are we going to see more of them? So I'm kind of keeping my eye on things to see, because look, before I take the caller, because when you talk about a random shooting, going in and shooting random people, I did several shows on gun violence in America. And the one thing that really popped out at me in my research was the fact that it wasn't ever random. For decades, if somebody did that, and it was very rare, it was usually targeted to somebody. Even a school shooting was targeted toward a teacher or a student they didn't like. It wasn't just going into this particular school or this particular bowling alley or this particular place and then shooting everybody up because they have PTSD. That wasn't even a thing, okay, before the CIA had their behavioral programs established. And it wasn't taking out the commies, it was behavioral programming was their first mission. The first mission was take over the media, and then, of course, start their behavioral programs where they were experimenting on people just like the Nazis had, right? And they were furthering that research as we took Nazis into this country, right? Where they furthered that research and then really started subjecting certain people to mind control experimentation, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
So back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, before Hollywood lost their mind and the directors still were sort of verging on realistic stories, they actually had a movie. It's amazing how many movies are reflecting on what's really happening, like the 73 movie with Network. The one I'm referring to on the mind control thing is Frank Sinatra was in. It's called Manchurian Candidate.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and Mel Gibson
took Korean, they captured Korean soldiers, U.S. soldiers in Korea, and they brainwashed them, and they put them over there, and they could program him to, when they said a certain thing, he would go kill the president, and that's what they had him programmed to do.
You know what? I think we have to take this in as a bullet point when we're talking about all these things, because one of my kids actually was asking me just recently, so the uptick in all of this happening, like it seems, every other day. And I said, yes, there is something to that. There's something to the uptick because they're leading us somewhere, right? There's a reason for it, because otherwise, why, right? So you have random shootings that no one can explain, and they're coming out, they're telling us the motive. Even the feds, Fox News, Carolyn Levitt, and Trump are all telling us the motive before they're even disclosing anything, okay? So in that, why is that, right? Why do they have to have the motive firmly implanted in our minds? And then you look at the randomness of it and how rare that actually is, but then it's happening more often. So do they want us?
And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier on when you were talking to your other guests, is that the end goal, before you can take over a country, any country that's been taken over, you've got to take the guns away.
Yep. 100%. And they're trying so hard to get us to want to do that for ourselves. Right. Thank you. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
I agree with that. And so I put that out on Facebook, and it's very interesting, to get comments and to get people weighing in on that, because do I have to put that out there? No. I could save myself the trouble, I guess, and I could save myself having to deal with people just being mean. But I actually really think that there was no reason for this guy to do it. And there's only still one person that's maybe wanting airtime and running for city council that's telling us that he had that very in-depth conversation for 20 minutes that oh my gosh. I mean, I've never had a 20-minute in-depth conversation like that with anybody, especially a stranger, to discuss every single place I ever worked, and and my kids, and my thoughts on religion, and not only that, my deep dark thoughts on religion. I mean, my gosh, that was an awful lot of conversation to have with a stranger running for office. So that whole thing really struck me as odd and doesn't fit. And I know people are saying that they think it does. I don't at all. I actually do think we have probably, if they're saying Islam, then go opposite. It's probably sleeper cells they've created here in the United States. I think they want us to say mental health, and I think they want us to say there's an attack on Christianity. Not that there isn't. It could be very real. But I don't think so. I actually think that for the most part, we can feel that way because of this attack that actually happened with my own church. So I'm telling you from being a member of this church and how it's affected me, it's really, really sad for the people that are affected by this. And I can't even imagine going to church and having this happen. But at the same time, is it an attack on all LDS? No. Is it an attack on all Christianity? No. And so we kind of have to look at it and with a logical frame of mind and say, is that happening in every city? No. But they want us to put that out on social media over and over again. There's a desire there. They really, and I think that's why they tell us the motive right off the bat is so that everybody gets geared toward the answer of it or the investigation of it, right, is going to point to that. That's why when that city council guy came out and started talking, then they were like, see, he hated Mormons. Well, I don't know. There's just something unbelievable about that. And why isn't there more people coming out? Because if you're loose-lipped enough to talk to a stranger running for city council that you don't know about your deep, dark thoughts on Mormonism, then why aren't you relating that to the shop clerk, the grocery store clerk, the person, I mean, that, the guy that mows your lawn, the neighbor? If you're that loose-lipped, you're going to be loose-lipped a lot. So where is everybody coming out of the woodwork to say that he hated Mormons? There's something about this that seems very contrived, and it was a suicide mission. So something's very wrong about that. And I have to kind of tell you always what I'm thinking, but true or not, as far as like, will it come out someday that that's true? I don't know, but I'll always tell you how I'm feeling about it. And I think that there's way more to that. And the whole sleeper cell idea, when that came to me, that's been kind of interesting because I hadn't really thought of that before. And that thought occurred to me and I was like, that's an interesting one, because could that be the case? That it would be the opposite? They're saying Islam. They have to always point the finger the other way, just like they say China's responsible for COVID blovid. And I'm like, no, it's not. It is not responsible for that. They are. And they're pointing the finger at China. So they're always pointing the finger at Russia, China, or the Middle East. And I'm like, we ought to always go opposite on that. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hey, Kate, thank
Hi.
you for who you are.
Thanks. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
So among all these things, these are theories which seem to get more ridiculous as you think about them or review them.
Mm-hmm.
This one guy went into the ballistics, which was what I've been looking for.
Okay.
And a whole lot of detail to just make it short. He pinpointed it coming from the left into that hole in his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And down into the cavity because it came from an upper position.
Okay.
And he measured he didn't measure it. He says, look at the size of the neck, how it expands. Look at the size of his body, his whole body, chest, not just the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Everything expanded. And he used the word cavitation, which means the bullet bringing in the air and making this big, all that kind of stuff. So, and that explained why the chain broke off. And some people think it was a blood spatter from the right side and his necklace chain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't know, an hour long, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And went into some great detail about some other things, but that seemed more plausible than anything else, because you got to know why the shirt moved, his body moved, and the way things happened. So anyway,
yeah,
that was a good thing. I sent you a link on it. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. All right. Yeah, great calls today, by the way. I'm really appreciative of that. There's a lot of info. Are people waking up? Yes. Are we watching? Feel like you're watching a movie? Yeah. And do movies tell us things that that could happen? Oh yeah. I think they use Hollywood at every turn. And not that I think everything is a Hollywood production, but certainly certainly there's a lot more theater than people can register. And I think it's really tough for people to really factor in how much theater they're actually seeing. So yeah. All I know is you go opposite whenever they say something. Senator Johnson was interviewing Kash Patel, right? And basically saying, look, as they were testifying, right, about the Epstein case and Charlie Kirk. And I played that in the beginning clip where Kash Patel said they're investigating other shooters, right? There's other people that they're investigating because of the possibility of other shooters, which is very interesting because they came out and they were certain this is our guy, one guy. Erica Kirk was coming out and saying they all the time. That was kind of an interesting one. They instead of he, right? When she's talking about the assassin of Charlie Kirk. Who was she talking about? Who was she referring to? There's lots of questions. And then he said about Epstein, Kash Patel basically said that they couldn't really pursue anything because they know that he got underage, kids for sex for himself, but nobody else because of the way it was handled before him. Before coming into office for Kash Patel, the way they handled it under the other presidencies really is keeping the information from him because, of course, they decided that a lot of the information they weren't going to be able to review for some odd reason. So when I'm saying this, what I'm gathering then is that when the excuses roll in for why you can't have any information, why you can't ever see anything, and it doesn't matter who's president, because when the excuses roll in, number one, the judges. Okay, it's always the judges. The judges have to vote on it. The judges say no. The judges say yes, whatever the case may be, right? It's always, well, we have to rely on a judge. The other thing is, well, before us, I get this a lot locally too, with local horrid politicians that say the same thing. Well, before me, this is what they were doing, and so I can't do anything about it. Really? You can't do anything about it? How is that even possible? One of our county commissioners here that I can't stand because I think he lies all the time to everybody, Iverson. So he actually said that to me. I said, I can't remember what the issue was. We were emailing back and forth. It was something where I said, you could clearly do the right thing on this and say no. And he said, no, my predecessors said yes to this, so I have to say yes. I can't change anything. But when they run for office, they always say they can change everything, right? So it's kind of this excuse racket is what I call it. The excuse racket of, oh, the judges have to weigh in on this, or, oh, it was done this way before us, so it's not my fault. And it seems that this is the case all the time. When we can't get stuff done. It's interesting to me that your leftist loony, your very socialist, Marxist, leftist loony, they are able to get stuff done. But when you're trying to combat anything or fight anything, can't get anything done, folks. Just can't happen. It just seems like that's always the way it is, right? It's always a series of excuses as to why we can't fight anything or why we can't have nice things. I don't know. But when the lefty loony wants their way, boy, they get it. They don't have an excuse racket. But on the right, we have an excuse racket. So, yeah, you can't handle the truth. Yeah. Jack Nicholson. Yes, that is the truth. Oh my gosh. So I'm just throwing that out there. I think that there's just a lot of fake fighting happening, and he said, we can't get to the Epstein files because of yada yada yada, all these excuses. And then Senator Johnson said, yeah, well, we need to know. Well, you're never going to see the Epstein files. You're never really going to see the JFK files. Why? Because it was the Secret Service, and it was LBJ, and it was some of the mob, but there was a whole racket behind taking him out. And I'm sorry, but from what I've read and researched, the Secret Service knew that was going to happen that day. So I don't know. You tell me, guys. I think there's way too much there. And I think that we have to look at these excuses as excuses and start calling people out on them. Because I know even with President Trump, there's always a reason. There's always some excuse with a judge or what have you as to why we can't get anything really resolved. And like I've always said, we'll never see anything. No one's going to prison that should. And of course, we find ourselves again and again in this situation where we're fatigued over things not going our direction. Well, they weren't ever meant to go our direction is the point. That's the point. But they have to have some reason to tell you, right, as to why. Just even the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Why isn't Congress just stopping the funding? As quickly as they started it, they could stop it. You shouldn't need a judge to get Congress to start the funding, but we need a judge to get out of it? Really? Okay. So that's why I don't believe any of it. I just, when people ask me, well, what are my thoughts on Trump's first, 6 months? I'm like, well, look at the proof in the pudding. I mean, that's what I'm looking at is the proof in the pudding. What is actually happening? What are we really looking at? And have we actually gained any liberty back? And is the NSA shut down? And are we looking at all these things that were campaigned on? Has anything gone away? Has anything come to light? Has anyone gone to prison? No. Am I expecting a miracle in 6 months? No, but I'm expecting some progress. And I haven't had that yet. So I have to be honest in saying, well, you're up to more excuses. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Good to talk to you again, Kate.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, and come November, I'm looking forward to talking to you about the Kennedy assassination. I know you usually do something then. And you may recall, I called you last November recommending the book that I say cracked the case in 1996, Final Judgment.
Okay, yeah.
By Michael Collins Piper. Yeah, it should be noted, he was a longtime confidant and personal friend and colleague of the great Mark Lane. Mark Lane was the famous lawyer, author that in 1968 wrote, he connected the CIA to the killing of Kennedy in his famous book, Rush to Judgment. And when Piper came out with this book in 96, Mark Lane wrote a little note to it saying, Piper has pinned the tail on the donkey. And yes, you're going to see names in there like Jack Rubenstein, Jack Ruby. Even Alex Jones pronounces it Jack Rubenstein now, which is interesting. And I am a fan of Alex Jones to a degree. And I know, just like Charlie, the pressure they're under from the lobby, from the tribe.
Well, there's a lot of things that he says that are true. That's why, there are a lot of things that he says. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And I heard more of you talking to him yesterday. And I want to say he's got his reasons, but he even showed a picture of the face of the man in the brown, shifting to Charlie here now, Charlie Kirk, the man in the brown plaid shirt that I know, looking at it, that is not an AI photo. Or excuse me, a video. That is some of the original cell phone and different angles video. But here's the point I want to make. People can say, well, yeah, he pressed the button. That's what Alex is saying. He's saying he pressed the button, detonated the microphone on Charlie's. Look, that's plausible, but that's not proven just yet. It's a good theory, something to work on. The difference is this: we can see him fire a Chicago palm pistol as Charlie falls a quarter of a second later. So the point is, then after that, you see the same brown plaid shirt man in a still shot that Rents shows on rents.com with the palm pistol imprint and the muzzle in his left hip pocket. That means, why would he have a palm pistol on him, Kate, if he was going to use a detonator instead?
Yeah, interesting. All right.
Hey, at least we know Jones is agreeing that he's kind of our man. He's in that detail. And but all credit goes to Jeff Rents. And you said you might work on having him on the show.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely send him a text. I haven't yet, but I will. Thank you for the call. So I just wanted to say real quick, the brown plaid guy, that was one of the guys that said he was new in the new part of the detail. that had been called out because, they weren't doing anything. And they got called to be the new security of Charlie Kirk's detail. It was that guy. Interesting. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that up. All right. Really appreciate all the callers today. And there's a couple of things as well. So bear with me for just a second. At All Family Pharmacy, I would take ivermectin and fembendazole. I would also go there for your diabetic needs or any of those kinds of needs that you have. allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. They're doing some deals right now. Take advantage of them. I would stock up. I would actually stock up for family members. Okay, ivermectin's cheap. It's not a hugely costly drug or anything, and it does work to get parasites out. It works really well, actually. And I will put up. There's a certain protocol with the amounts, and there's like 5 different things that you take, and I will post that on the Kate Daly Show page for you, and then how much to take of each of those things. And I think you go like a week on, week off kind of scenario, and you do that over the course of like a couple of months. But I will put that protocol on there for you so that you can see it, because I think it's really important. If I know people are trying to get rid of parasites in the brain, parasites in the gut, and this one is actually really good. It's like 5 different ones, including ivermectin and fembendazole, and then membendazole, those 3 at least. And you can get those at All Family Pharmacy, sent right to your door. It's a doctor's script sent right to your door. So use the code word, /Kate, go there and order that. I'd get ahead of this season coming up. I don't know what they're going to drop. I don't know what they're putting in the water, and I don't know what they're doing next. So I'd just be ready for any of it, to tell you the truth. And I know a lot of people have relaxed on food storage and things like that. Don't relax on that. The very time that you want to relax is probably when you should really make sure you're okay. I think we have some disasters coming. I think that, in that little list that the DOD gave, Kristi Noem, when she said, they're working with Five Eyes and the Five Eye countries, and, they're on board with sharing more info about us and all of that nonsense. The thing about that is they mentioned, it was really weird. They mentioned space weather, hurricanes, and like certain things. It was really weird, to tell you the truth. I mean, just certain things. And do I think we have more coming in strange weather? I do. I actually think that that there's a concerted effort to destroy, to distract. So both. And I'm also looking at any future events like the one that happened to the LDS Church in Michigan, and saying, okay, are we going to find more people where the story really doesn't fit? It's weird, and all of a sudden they're just attacking a church, or they're attacking some strange thing just weirdly because they want to claim that we are such a violent country that we're ready to kill each other. I think the whole Ukrainian girl story is fake. I did not believe that one, and there was a reason that I didn't. They were just, I'm sorry, she's grabbing her face, not her neck. I mean, it was just no blood coming out of her neck. It was just very weird. And they're trying to claim violence is everywhere. We all hate each other, and we should probably do something about guns. Even though that was a knife attack, we should do something about guns. So, and I'm really hoping our conservatives don't buy into it. I also wanted to mention Formula AIQ. That's the website for FIQ supplements, formulaaiq.com. Use the code Kate. You'll get a really nice discount on that. You're going to love that because they have the best supplements. These are supplements that absorb into the body, and that's important to me because I've taken a lot of different supplements and people have sent them to me. I always stick with these guys because I know that they are really caring about the quality that's going in your body and they want it to absorb. So formulaaiq.com. And then, of course, the ebooks. The ebooks are for sale. I'm adding more, and you can go to katetalks.myshopify.com. Kate Talks with an S.myshopify.com. You can get the ebooks, mugs, gifts for people because Christmas is coming, and these are kind of funny conservative gifts. And so I'm mocking liberals, of course. And I'm mocking the lies of government. But you can go check these out. Hoodies and jackets and all kinds of things are there. It does help the show, and I really appreciate you doing that. The ebook on cancer is there. Go get it. And also the one on Disney. Go get that. Send it to a friend if you want to. So katetalks.myshopify.com. And of course, Cardio Miracle. I'm telling you, I'm just blown away by that product. And that's why I keep sharing it with you. I have just been so shocked by it. And then when Judy Mikovits came on, Dr. Judy Mikovits, she's like, I love this product. I was just like, that is awesome, because I was feeling that too. I was like, man, I feel good. This is crazy. So I just feel really good. So does my husband. Do you know we went country dancing for the first time in like a decade, maybe 15 years, because he felt good. And I was like, dang. And we're both taking this product. So, yeah, my husband used to just like stand on the dance floor and just grimace because he was always in so much pain. And I'd kind of dance around him. It was kind of funny, actually. It happened only a few times, but he actually wanted to go dancing. And so we did, and we had a blast, and he stayed out on the dance floor. I'm just telling you because it's true. And we were both like, oh my gosh, this product's amazing. Cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Try it out. You're going to see. And my focus is better. It's been crazy. Anyway, it delivers all those minerals to your body. But take it twice a day. Don't just take it once a day. All right, you guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the input today. There's more tomorrow. So I'll be playing a lot more stuff tomorrow too, and we'll take your calls tomorrow too. Really appreciate you. Be faithful, be fearless. Find out why I say that on the website, katedalleyradio.com. Tell people I'm back. I'm also live on YouTube and X. You can watch it there and comment during the show, and really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.